everyone and welcome back to my channel. Last week I painted these Winnie the Pooh cards and I customized them, but I also already had started these other 9 cards which I'm going to be painting on today. And I'm going to start by doing the back of each of the cards because for today's video I am going to be painting completely on both sides, but I wanted the backs of all the cards to match each other, just so that they would look like they're from the same set and they're all kind of just one complete crew. And I am just doing a simple rainbow on the back of them to start with. And I did about 3 coats, I believe, of each color, so just this part took a very long time. And I try to make it as even as possible and as exact on each card, but it didn't turn out as perfectly as I originally wanted it to. And once that was dry, I laid out all the cards in front of me and I pulled out my Posca markers and I decided to just kind of put my initials and the date and leave it at that for the back of the card. I tried making my initials to seem more like, I guess, a symbol of the cards or whatever. And then before I continued on to the front, I did put a big coat of sealant and protectant, but I made sure to use the matte varnish so that it wouldn't cause any sticking problems. And I just wanted to make sure to seal in this side before I started on the front side, just in case there were any mistakes and I didn't like paint over something or mess up the back while I was working on the front. I did about 1 thick coat for each of the back of the cards before I moved on into the front of the cards. And for the front of the cards, I really only had one thing in mind. I know it's probably not everyone's cup of tea, but I've always been somewhat of a fan of Pokemon, specifically of Eevee and all of her evolutions. And so that's what I was really wanting to do on each of the 9 cards, since there are 9 Eevees. But before I get ahead of myself, I started by giving a base color to each of the cards. I tried to choose the color that would represent each Eevee the best, but that wouldn't be the exact color of the Eevee because I still wanted them to be visible onto the card. And that's why I went for like the more pastel versions. And I did about 3 coats of each of the cards, except for the yellow and the pink. Those were really difficult and I think they took about 5 or 6 coats to get completely opaque. And as you can see, I have this little lanyard tag with all of the 9 Eevees on it that I was keeping close at hand while I was doing this whole project, just so I could kind of reference and look back on. And once that was finally done, which took forever, I had all 9 cards ready with the background, and I had to pretty much decide how I was going to design them and how I was going to draw them. And once again, I decided to go with the silhouette style and just did kind of the silhouettes of each of the Eevees, which is kind of hard to see. And for some of them I had to use like pencil, and some I had to use like a white marker or pen to draw out the silhouette of each of the Eevees. Since it's such a small space painting on a card, I really had to do a lot of the work off camera and with Posca markers. And I decided going with simple silhouettes would probably be easier for this small scale than actually drawing out every detail. And I did add the names to each of the cards. And And then from here, I decided they looked really plain, so I wanted to continue adding more details to each of them. So for Vaporeon, I added lots of water since she's the water evolution. And then for Sylveon, I kind of got carried away when I was doing all the hearts and the bows and the, I guess, shiny, sparkly stuff. And they started to look a lot like snow. And since there is an ice type Eevee, I decided to try to bring back that design and try to not make them too similar from each other. And so I try to emphasizing the shiny part and not really make it look like snow. And here is the ice type Glaceon. And so she has a lot of diamonds and crystals in her design, and so I wanted to incorporate that onto the card along with the ice and the snow. I try to stay in the same colors of the original Eevees when doing this because I wanted the cards, especially since they weren't full drawings of the Eevees and just their silhouettes, I wanted them to represent each of the Pokemon correctly. And this is pretty much how they turned out. Again, I had to do most of the detail work off camera, but here is the finished product for each of them. Some were a lot harder than others, especially the yellows and the light pinks. But eventually, with many layering, I did manage to do all of them and give all of them their color and their designs. And once again, before finishing off, I did do another thick coat of matte varnish on top of the cards to protect them and seal them. Overall, I'm really happy with how they turned out. This process in this video took a very long time to make, which surprised me because I didn't think or plan it would take this long. But I'm happy with the end result. Even though they're not perfect, they came out pretty much how I originally planned them to. And since I'm a big Eevee fan and I love all of them, I'm really happy with how they turned out. And I did add a little heart, which was half brown and half the color of the Eevees, just to kind of represent Eevee evolving into each of these different Pokemon. And I definitely have my favorites and my least favorites, but overall I love how they look, each of them individually, but more importantly, I love how they all look together as a set. And I really hope you all enjoyed this video. I know not everyone's a big fan of Pokemon, but I hope even if you don't like Pokemon, maybe you could have just enjoyed the video in of itself. And maybe you will try to make your own cards. I fully enjoyed both process of making the cards, the customizing, and then the fully painting on it. And here you can kind of see a side-by-side of all of the cards I did in both the videos. The Winnie the Pooh ones were more just customizing around the original image, whereas today's cards were more so painting over the whole thing and making something completely new. And I think they're both really good projects and good options depending on what style you prefer. But thank you all so much for watching. I truly hope you all enjoyed it, and I appreciate you all sticking tuned and watching both of these videos in both parts. I fully enjoyed this video and I'm really happy it's here and I can share it with you all. I have always been a huge fan of Eevee and all of her evolutions. She's always been my favorite Pokemon, and I'm really happy to finally make some art with her. I've been wanting to for a while, but never had an opportunity. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope you all did enjoy it. And I hope you all stay tuned to my next videos. Bye!